Dønall is from the Curragh in Southern Ireland, about 40 miles south of Dublin. And he was brought up there, but he lived round the corner from here in, I think it was 1986, which is when he first came over to England to work. He's been writing all that time. He was writing before he left Ireland, and he's published books with me before. He's been published all over the place, otherwise in anthologies and online. He publishes himself online incessantly. He won't stop. I keep telling him, don't do it, but he will do it. Because he's just too generous. And these poems are the fruit of many, many years of remembering and making sense of his childhood and of everything that's happened to Dønall, really, even up to this year, because the book takes in love, life, loss, funniness, family. It's all there. It's a whole life. So I recommend Gerry Sweeney's Mammy to you, which is over there on the book table, and I'm going to get Dønall to read. He's going to read some from the book, but he's got some new poems as well. Thank you, Dønall.
This be the book, Gerry Sweeney's Mammy. And the main word that you have to know about this book is Bababadal character, Kamina run con brun, Tunneron, Toon, Tun, Trova, Hunasgon, Tuhu, Turnock. And that is the first thunder word of James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. Third page, third paragraph down, third word in. I was writing this book and I was supposed to come out in my 60th year, and death happened. My young brother died, my father died, and that word, Bababadal Karakta, came across it. So instead of being a book about childhood, it's a book about childhood, the death of childhood, and the death of people that I really love. Joyce, too, came into everything. The brother who died, Brian, said, my other brother is very literary altogether, and he watched me and Barry riff about evil and war, and he said, I wish I was like you and Barry and had read Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake. And I said, Brian, I haven't read Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake. So when he died, I decided to give him a wake of words, and I read Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake and everything by Joyce in the past year. So Joyce came into the book a terrible lot. I was building a tree house for my little girl, and I hit my thumb with the hammer and it went up in a cartoon like that. And have you ever seen the Porky Pig cartoon where he's doing exactly the same thing? Hits his thumb and the thumb blows up like that, and he goes, son of a, son of a, son of a, son of a. And then he stops and he says to the camera, I bet you thought I was going to say son of a bitch. No. So I had my little daughter with me and I hit my thumb and I was going, and I said, and all that, and she looked at me and said, funny, Daddy. And then, if anything ever went wrong, she said, do thunder again. And she'd always wait for the Horden bit, because she liked doing that bit. So this, as it happened, I was back in 85, I was Ireland's first poet in residence in a secondary school in Ireland, in Ballywaltram, St. Killian's. And I was also up on Bray Head, and Bray Head is a lovely seaside town. It's sort of like, it was called the Brighton of Ireland. And before I was poet in residence, I was a foreman, and we were building steps, concrete steps up the hill, because it was a tourist trap in the 1950s, and a cable car that went up to it. It fell into disuse, 40 years of vegetation, and we were going to build steps up so it all could open up again. And me and my crew would build the concrete, mix the cement, and then carry up the buckets and build the steps. And I had a great idea one day of, why don't we just mix it in the barrow, and we'll all carry the barrow up like that. And we got to the top, and the wind took, and the barrow just went off like that. So Braehead I know very well, and during a break I said, okay guys, you have an extended break because I've got to go down to the local radio station and get interviewed for being a poet. And the guy, and I came down in my overalls and I'm totally covered in concrete dust. I'm white, everything's white, concrete dust. And the guy interviewing me says, and so Dónall, what's it like being up in Braehead? You probably have a lovely time thinking of birds and this and flowers and all that. And I thought, God, is the guy blind or what? Can he not see the way I am? And the guy was blind, but I hadn't realised that. So this is about Braehead, and James Joyce, when he was a little boy, lived in Bray. So the past is only a heartbeat away from you. It's called And Thus the Whirligig of Time. Braehead rises out of the mist. The year 1889 comes back into being. The past, they say, is gone, but goes on forever. It is yet again the beginning of spring, Joyce's birthday. Young Jimmy is always playing somewhere down below. This once his, now mine, seaside town. Waves throw themselves over the sea wall as if they would invade both the past and the present. Spume set flying over the top of the houses, water washing into halls. The Joyce children acting out their play, their very own Garden of Eden. Jimmy shining in the role of Satan, with much energetic, exaggerated wriggling upon his little belly. His snake-like body fashioned from a rolled-up towel. Dante, too, transformed from Mrs. Conway into the Corkodian drawl of Diante, Dante. Ring out your great bells in victory, Jimmy yells at a passing rainbow, being bitten by an Irish setter on the esplanade. Playing football with Bill O'Connell's best hat, the usual jumpers for goalposts, and with whatever the hatter puts it back together with, so that it once more resumes being a hat, makes it attractive to bees, and begob but there's a swarm dancing about Billy's head on a picnic probably where I'm sitting this very minute. Sure, the bees are only having their tea, Daddy Joyce smirks to you at young Jimmy Joyce. And I, Ireland's first poet in residence in a secondary school, see all this happening still, stretched out here on the cold hillside. The past, they say, never really goes away. It just goes on living in the head of whoever owns the present now. I, the poet in residence to time. A seagull flies by me at eye level, gives me a wink. Ah, how are you? Nice morning, isn't it? I had a lovely experience my first day when I became poet in residence in St. Killian's. And I came in and there was this little girl and she was fascinated with me and she just used to look at me with her big eyes and she'd follow me all around and then she finally worked up the courage and said, "Are you really the Pope in residence?" And I said, "Bless you, my child." And I gave her absolution for the sin of mistaking me. Good. It is 1970. Somebody, Catherine, you did 1972. I'll go back 2 years. It is 1970. It is the never-to-be-forgotten visit of President Nixon to Ireland. Oh, yeah. We had Kennedy, of course. Everybody loved that. I think when he got, I think Kennedy bet him by about 0.1% or something like that. And Daddy Joe, getting all the mafia, really helped John. The other thing that helped him was that he was Irish. And if you went into an Irish homestead in my childhood, you had a picture over the Sacred Heart of John F. Kennedy and Pope John Paul the 23rd. And he was considered saintly like that. Yeah. And so Nixon thought, well, what if I come to Ireland, go back to my roots and get the Irish vote as well? It didn't work, I'm afraid. Dan, where are you? Are you still there, Dan?
Hi.
Yeah. Dan will understand this. This is my first foray into politics when I became a political being. So it's called, I don't have a good run-in with presidents. I almost killed one president. I almost had the president kill me. And this is called the assassination of President Richard Milhouse Nixon. It's for John Smith, who took the back cover of the book. It was October the 5th, 1970, a Monday. It was the 278th day of the year, only 87 days remaining until the end of the year. I knew I had to act now. It was now or never. Time? I forget the time. Time was standing still. Huge clouds menaced the horizon, impersonating an armada of Spanish galleons. Full sail ahead then, I took a step into my future. The smiling president drawing nearer and nearer. In Naas, the drenched crowd cheered. In Newbridge now, flocks of children chased the car like he was some kind of piper from Hamlin. I kept a close eye on the Secret Service, all dressed in the same suit, looking like clones of one another, poking into their sleeves. My gaze searches and settles upon him, like the crosshairs of a sniper's rifle. Sure, he had called his setter King Timahoe, after where his folks came from, another American looking for his roots, bolstering the Irish-American vote. And now, here he was, the man himself, in person, the 37th president, throwing his arms up in that two-handed salute, the big old galoot. Irish colleens dancing upon a makeshift stage in the square of Kildare. He's here, oh so near I can see the pores of his skin. A bead of sweat trickles into that infamous Nixon grin. There I do it now, my hair falling into my eyes. My mind flashes back to 1792 when his Quaker ancestors fled the Emerald Isle. 3 centuries passed by in a second and we're here in the middle of the Vietnam War. And he speaks of a passion for peace, preventing war, building peace. Yeah, sure. Carpet bombing Cambodia, the famous Nixon duplicity, the credibility gap opening between what he says and what he does. Oh, there were protests. He has 5 egg hurlers, splat, 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 and splat, only 1 near hit. And then 1 man protesting the price of a pint, up for the occasion to 1 shilling and Jesus, 7 pence. What's the world coming to? School kids waving their plastic and slow-mo American flags on little plastic sticks. The big black limo gliding grandly by. I raise my flag. I raise my voice, shooting my mouth off with a great shout. Tricky Dicky, would you buy a used car from this man? Several Secret Service scowl. My words hit him. Nixon frowns. Character assassination. Mr. McCann, also known as the Bicycle Man, curses me in Irish. After all, he is my Irish teacher. Damnation, Dónall Dempsey. You're sold to the devil, Dempsey. The time has come to call a spade a bloody shovel. I yell as I get a clip around the ear. Mr. McCann holds his hand over my mouth. Then suddenly Nixon is no longer there. The hurled words disappear into the air. Us schoolboys tramp dampily back to double max. The De La Salle Academy looming up before us. Mr. McCann hovers near. I cover both my ears, but he only tousles my hair. Ah, ma Amadan Bjunk Kroga. Ah, my brave little fool. Mahamboko, Makaboom. Goodbye. He grins, slips me a 6pence. I sing the new Led Zepp, only released that day. So now you'd better stop and rebuild all your rooms. For peace and trust can win the day, despite all your losing. Being only 12, I had done what had to be done. My political life had only just begun. This is called Teaching Timothy to Read. She is teaching Timothy to read, even though she can't read herself. Tongue firmly in cheek, she traces the words with a tiny fingertip that knows the story off by heart. She could read it in the dark. She is pretend reading. She has my every nuance and pause by rote, making great efforts to teach Timothy the puppy. But Timothy the puppy is more interested in the unthrown stick. Timothy the puppy thinks this reading lark is strictly for the humans. Once, she begins in a fairy tale-ish voice, Timothy the puppy barks in acknowledgement. Throw the stick, throw the stick, throw the stick, Timothy the puppy's mind thinks. Upon a time, a long time ago, Timothy the puppy looks adoringly at his little mistress with such an immensity of love and licks her finger as it travels over the words, the story's journey. Oh, you, she scolds, are not even paying attention. It's no good, I give up. she frowns at the unhappy creature, throwing the book away in a prissy, hissy fit. Timothy the puppy, full of the joys of a dog's life, it's the only life he knows, chases the fluttering pages that fly like an exotic bird, brings Hans Christian Andersen back, his mouth full of words. This is for my young cousin Mary Frances. When my sister June died, I was 9, and I lived my world in glorious technicolor, and I was madly in love with the world was madly in love with me. A drunk driver crashed into the back of a stationery book, and I went into black and white colour, and I didn't come out. The only way I could escape from that is to go deeper and deeper and deeper inside myself, so that I couldn't even reach myself anymore. At 23, I started writing poetry and clicked back into being a human being. I had a little cousin called Mary Frances, and she was full of energy, full of the delight of life. And I used to go down to Cork, because Cork was where June didn't die, and Cork was summer holiday land. And Mary Frances had all this amazing energy, and she put some of the colour back into me that helped me colour myself in again. So this is called The Gate Swings Open. We hang from, admittedly upside down, now interlaced between, now balanced upon, the 5-bar gate, the river beyond calling our names. This is the threshold between lane and field. We live only in the moment, and so forever. Your dress falling over your face, stifling giggles, gales of laughter, shaking us from our perch like windfall apples. An ouch and an ow later, and we are back upon where we had fallen from. A constable, I could imagine, would have painted us thus in passing. Our 5-bar gate as much a part of us as our antics and laughter. Even in this overgrown now, I still smart from the sting of its nettles, still taste the tang of its baby strawberries at its gnarled wooden feet. The gate opens into a world that is gone, captured in my imagination by a constable blur of paint, showing 2 blurs that could be considered us, children at play. It hangs in my mind in the gallery of memory, the light slowly dying, only the laughter remains. The thrush's song threaded through the morning. Thank you. I was teaching my little girl Norse mythology, and she was very interested in the facts that the clouds were once a big giant's brains before he got them smashed out and it became the clouds. And she used to always say to me, well, I wonder what the clouds are thinking. And I was explaining what Ragnarok was, the end of the world and all that. And the teenagers behind me had discovered the Stones. And they were listening to, no, it's only rock and roll, but I like it, yes I do. And it was all that noise, and then disaster happened. So this is called, I know it's only Ragnarok and roll, but I like it, yes I do. The sun rolls across the floor, chased by an orange and black cat. Cornered like a mouse, the sun hides just out of reach under the chest of drawers. Uranus has made it all the way to the toilet door. Mars has landed in the half-eaten blancmange. Neptune, no one knows where Neptune's gone. Venus floats in an undrunken wine. The earth hides in a flower pot. Mercury balanced just upon the edge of the table. The moon has risen in the child's hand. No, don't eat the moon! The planetary mobile has somehow come apart. The planet's now mere child's play, or a coloured ball a cat could chase. After the planets fall to earth, I pluck Pluto from its path, the only planet that left intact. Pocket it. It's not the end of the world, I tell them all. Tea, anyone? And some nice biscuits? I used to work with a lovely teacher up in the Vale School just by Tottenham Hotspur's ground. And he was called D. D-E-E, or just plain D. And I always took him for that, and he said, oh, I'm a Dónall too, only I shortened to D. And he went to Cuba, and he died a couple of years ago in Cuba, and he never came back. So this is called The Man Who Walks Books. He was a Dónall, just like me, but preferred to be known as D, or D. In Cuba, he, the man who walked books, the sun shining on his bald pate as he strode along, head stuck in a book, his legs having to do all the seeing, he breathing in the words, they staining his mind, an emotional osmosis. On dusty white roads, halfway round the bend, he, always the man who walked books. Your death both shock and surprise, it seeming so absurd a D could die. You always so alive. Death filters back just the basic facts, without too much how or why. Tears the only words I have. Keeping you forever in my mind. You can only always be a dusty doth, now a dusty nearness, the man who walks books. In the Curragh, one of the sites of the Curragh is the Marian Shrine. We had shrines to the Virgin Mary. So, and it used to be always full of leaves, and you could actually hide and disappear in the leaves. So this is a boy made of leaves. The Curragh, 5,000 acres of fun where a boy could roam through all the realms of a 1960s childhood. Our house is gone now, only 2 pillars still stand, leading into an empty nothingness. I shoo a sheep out of the bedroom, once ours, our voices still carved in the air. Here a sheep pees furiously in what had been the bathroom. The house had become a ghost haunting itself. I still the little boy hiding in the Marian Shrine, invisible to one and all under an ocean of leaves, startling the passers-by with a quick boo or a poo to you. The Virgin Mary blushes upon her pedestal, frowning upon her antics, our shame telling it in confession. The wind scatters my childhood. I walk into the mist, erasing me bit by bit. And I had, the last gig I did, I had to have my tooth out, my wisdom tooth extracted. So I was enduring the pain of this, so I wrote MOT. Took my body in for its MOT. It was getting a bit old in the tooth. Sorry mate, but you're going to have your wisdom extracted. It's doing your head in. And the mind, well, you're just going to have to change it. You know what I mean? I would if I were you. Glad I'm not. And I suppose it has come to your attention that your mojo isn't working. It's not getting enough oil for the coil to start something, innit? The only thing that seems to be working was the hair. Well, he was loath to have to admit it. It was interesting but receding. I had to admit that recently my thoughts had gone a bit curly. Let me put it this way. If I was a vet, I would have to put you down. He chuckled at his own dumb joke. But lucky for you, I'm not. I'm a body mechanic is what? The same young, self-satisfied smirk of the very young. I could see him thinking like a cartoon bubble coming out of his head. How did he ever get so old? Now, if you trade yourself in, I can give you a good deal in the reincarnation line. Know what I mean? Take it or leave it. Can't do better than that. I left it and left. Sooner be me as I know myself to be, even in my great decrepitude, lights blinking on and off. I'd long to go now anyhow, I said aloud, knowing all too well that talking to oneself is the first sign that the mortal coils are slipping. The thing about interest in hair, we were at a party for Margaret Shakespeare down in Wales. And there was a lady, I don't know if she knew what a poet was or whether she had actually met many poets. She probably thought they were mad, bad, dangerous and Byronic. And she didn't realise that I was just moronic. And she was at the other end of the room, and through the night I could see her, like the phases of the moon, shift until she was beside me. And she was talking to me for about 5 minutes before she said, "My, you're very ordinary. You've only got interesting hair." And that's how the interesting hair comes in that line. Too much information altogether. This is the second last poem, penultimate poem. It's called Now He Is 60, the reason why the book was actually wrote. I was teaching year 3, and when you're a temporary teacher, you go in and you say, "Okay guys, what were you doing last week?" And nobody wants to tell you what they did last week because you're going to make them do it again or do more of the stuff. So everybody stays quiet except the little fat guy at the back, and he goes, "Please sir, we was doing hand of cleavage." And I thought, whoa, I don't want to go there. And I said, "What were you doing before that?" And they said, and everyone stayed quiet, and the little guy at the back said, "Please sir, the spinach armada." I thought, right, the spinach armada I can cope with. So the next day I came in and I had about 30 bunches of spinach. And I said, right, this is the spinach armada. Everybody get an orange and we'll buck. They never forgot that lesson at all.
Oh, good.
But then when I was teaching, I went from that to year 8. And I went into year 8. I know. The last time I read this, somebody said, there is such a thing as National Pirate Day. And yes, I know that. But National Pirate Day was about 6 months away. And anything to disrupt the teacher, of course, agency teacher, everybody was talking in pirate to me. And I thought one by, I thought, all right, then the next one, I thought, what is this? So I was doing Pythagoras' theorem, and I said, oh, their sail on the hypotenuse boat is equal to the sum of their sails on the other two ships, And I thought, oh, forget it. He has the measurements. And I don't usually sit down like this. I walk and talk all the time like this. This is how I usually am in class. Yeah, like that. That's how I talk and walk all the time. So this kid saw that and he thought, my God. So he said, the poem is called Now He Is 60. A year 8 child inquires how old I be. I be just 60. He gasps, my God, you're very active for 60. 60 for him is a distant planet in a galaxy far, far from here. Yea, another dimension. I smile my 60-year-old smile, perfected by now. I am starlight that will only reach him when he himself is 60, if he ever remembers what he has long ago forgotten. Thank you. And this is the Gerry Sweeney's Mammy, the poem. This is me and Gerry here, this is me and Gerry here, growing up. And John Smith took the back picture out in the Poliston Fern. And you can see I'm the yellow blob and Gerry's the blue blob. Gerry Sweeney's Mammy. In the Curragh that I grew up in, 5,000 acres as I said, and we roamed all around the place. And we'd play football, we'd throw our bags in at 3:30, go out and we'd play football to 12:30 or until your mother called you in. And you'd go, oh no, oh, no. And I didn't know much about sex. Jan is busily filling me in now. This year that I got married, she said, it's about time you knew this sort of thing. But back in the day when I was a young fella, a very young fella, I didn't know the facts of life. And I thought a chap could have 3 mammies. And I thought what a mammy was somebody who loved you to that nth degree. And I had 3 people who did. My own lovely mother Rita, I had Lizzie Sweeney up the road, and I had my Aunt Mary down in Cork. So I just thought they're my mammies because they fulfilled that definition. These are 110% proof mammies. Whoa, you never saw such love. And Lizzie Sweeney, I thought, deserved a love poem, a praise poem, a poem in celebration of her. And I thought, by God, I'm going to put Lizzie Sweeney back in people's heads if it kills me. And the love that she gave me when I was a little boy still runs through my veins. It's still there, and it's still as potent as anything. So this is called Gerry Sweeney's Mammy. Mrs. Sweeney was Gerry Sweeney's mammy. And even though I had my own, I had her on loan. It was like having a spare mammy. And even when she was mad with us, she just couldn't be mad with us. Go on, she'd grin. Go on. You'd wear the heart out of a stone. And if you fell and you were crying, heart and knee badly grazed, or badly bitten by a bee, she would hug you up with all of herself. Ah, come here to me, you poor little dote. Wrap you up in so much love, it would last for years. For years. Gerry Sweeney was my best friend ever. In the way back then. Still is. Nothing's changed. Except as young fellas have become old fellas, who still think they're young fellas. And every time I see him, I could almost cry. I can still see his mammy smiling out of his eyes. Thank you.